Hey everybody, my name's Kyle, and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. For as young of a band as Greta Van Fleet is, the 2-year and counting gap between their debut full-length album and its highly anticipated follow-up has felt like an eternity. These retro rockers were blowing up the music scene in 2017 and 18 with the throwback sound of their 2 EPs and their freshman album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. For as much of an impact as they made, the long delay for their sophomore effort has probably done little to quell the haters that thought the band was a one-trick pony. At long last, though, Greta Van Fleet has announced album number 2 is indeed on the way, albeit still nearly half a year away. The Battle at Garden's Gate is scheduled to take place on April 16th of 2021, and along with that announcement comes the new single, Age of Machine. As it turns out, Machine is the second single from the upcoming album, following My Way Soon, which the band dropped in October. If we're judging a book by its cover, or in the case of a band's music, by the titles, both the album name, The Battle at Garden's Gate, and the song title, Age of Machine, Greta Van Fleet would certainly appear to be digging their heels deeper into a mix of mysticism and fantasy that were, of course, hallmarks of much of the 70s era music to which they are so frequently compared. And as it turns out, Age of Machine does indeed live up to that expectations in its spiritually themed yet sparse lyrics. Much has been made of Josh Kiszka's vocal style, and once again he delivers exactly what you expect on this new song. Yet for a track that clocks in at nearly 7 minutes, there's actually surprisingly little in the way of vocals. I think that generally benefits the song and helps it land more squarely in the realm of the epic output of acts like Rush or Pink Floyd. Near the beginning of the song, the first faint vocal we hear is Kiszka's distant, guttural howl, shaking with a violent sort of vibrato that feels more tribal than anything else. Throughout the track, Kiszka's vocalizations are used to great effect to supplement the music. I can't say I'm as taken by his performance when there's actual lyrics involved, though. It's fine at best, and you'll certainly need to pull up the words if you want to understand him half the time. But it's in the music that Age of Machine truly feels like the band is making its greatest evolutionary strides. Although the song itself doesn't have much of a melodic arc over its somewhat lengthy runtime, I do enjoy the vast soundscape it paints. Maybe it's cheating a bit to use so damn much reverb in order to create that feeling of epicness, but I still think it all comes together very effectively. I do love the backing vocals layered with organ and the haunting droning of the guitar against the start-stop chug of the drums on the verses. By the time we get to the obligatory guitar solo, I'm feeling pumped for something truly special. Unfortunately, Jake Kiszka's playing ends up a near miss, inserting some odd chirping notes and then never quite letting his instrument achieve the altitude the song all but begs him to soar to. Make no mistake, though, I really do like Age of Machine, although perhaps more for the promise of what may be to come from this band. At first, it seemed an odd choice of song to accompany the album announcement, but not unlike Foo Fighters' recent release of Shame, Shame that accompanied their album announcement, it may well be an intentional signal that new directions are about to be explored. And while Greta Van Fleet has seemed to drag the anchor of a certain legendary rock band behind them for several years, I'd like to propose a comparison I don't think I've heard before. With Age of Machine, while I do hear many of the 70s rock influences that have been cited ad nauseum about this band, what the song sounds most like to me is Metallica, believe it or not, circa And Justice for All. Of course, Greta Van Fleet never gets anywhere close to the sheer heavy metal power of that legendary band, but to my ear, both this song and Metallica's One feel like they could potentially exist on the same playlist. Of course, I realize mentioning Metallica and Greta Van Fleet in the same sentence may offend some people, but don't forget MTV used to play One back-to-back with Janet Jackson, and I even remember seeing the music video playing on TV monitors in the young men's clothing section at Kohl's department stores. So, it is what it is. In any case, I'm enthusiastic about what's to come on the new Greta Van Fleet album. And considering the fact that the release of The Battle at Garden's Gate is still more than 4 months away, I have little doubt we'll end up seeing half the tracks released as singles between now and then anyway.
Once again, my name's Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, plus check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.